Hey everybody, it's Kira with Bookstaglamkira, and I'm here to go over my June reading recap for the month. I read a total of 8 books. I read 4 via audiobook and 4 via ebook, so no physical books for me this month. So let's just dive in no particular order. I read an arc, thank you publishers, of Far and Away, which was by Amy Popple. She's written a couple other books. I think it was called The Sweet Spot. I don't remember what the other one was called. And so she's got kind of a cute little sweet writing style, really light and fun. And this one was just that. It was about 2 women that, for one reason or another, they have different family life, different situations, completely different upbringings, and they decided that they wanted to do like a house swap basically. And so half the book is set in someplace in Texas and the other half is set in Germany. So for those of you that liked The Holiday, it had a little bit of that vibe, just with the whole trading houses and kind of getting a fresh perspective on things, and almost like a reset for life. Just obviously making new friends, found family, and so I did end up giving this 4 stars. It was very sweet. There were some things that were kind of a little quote unquote out of this world that I wasn't quite sure how it fit in, and again, speaking very vaguely here without giving any spoilers, but still a lot of fun. So if you go into it with an open mind and just for a lighthearted read, I think you'll really enjoy this one. Another one that I read was Home of the American Circus by Allison Larkin. This was a book club selection. Allison Larkin, she wrote another book that is escaping me. This one was kind of I would say it was like a family drama. There were a lot of characters going through some really tough situations, and for whatever reason, I just was not into it. I don't know if it was because you've got a group of unlikable characters or what it was, but I had a hard time with her other one too, where everyone seemed to be liking it, so I just might be the odd person out here and that Allison Larkin just isn't for me. So I ended up giving this 3 stars, but similar to her other book, everybody else in the book club loved it. They were giving it 5 stars galore. So just know that just because I didn't like it doesn't mean that you won't either. Certainly give it a shot and see if it's for you. The next one that I read, this was actually a last minute pickup from NetGalley, so I got an audio and an advanced listening copy from the publisher, and it's called The Ex-Girlfriend's Murder Club. So it was really comical, really funny. It was basically, there's these 3 women that they find out that they've all been getting cheated on by the same man. And so they develop this unusual friendship over the fact that they'd all been cheated on him, and they bond together and seek revenge. I will say it's not what you necessarily think is going to happen based on the title of the book. But again, go into this with an open mind. It's obviously not a serious read at all, but very enjoyable. I liked the comedy part, the humor part to this. And sticking with movie comparisons, I just kept thinking of John Tucker Must Die, because I think the male main character's name is actually Tucker, so how could you not think of that? This one I gave 3.5, so it's a fun, light read. The next one I read was The Names by Florence Knapp. I did an audio version of this. I feel like this book is everywhere right now. So The Names, a little bit about it is it kind of takes into perspective how someone's life may look differently based on the name that they're given. So you've got this mother that in the beginning scenes, it's very apparent that she is in kind of a hostile marriage, and she's getting abused, and she has a daughter, a young daughter, but she also just recently had a son. And so the husband wants to continue the family name, and so his choice, his wishes are to name their son after him and his grandfather and however far out it goes. But then there's also a name that the daughter picks out that she thinks is lovable and fun and lighthearted. And then the mother even has one that she feels like has a strong meaning. And so I thought it was clever with how it was written and how basically with each chapter, we are given these three names in the beginning. We then have those names for chapter titles throughout. So for example, one of the names is Julian. And so you might have Julian 3 years from now and kind of what that looks like had he been named Julian. I will say this was a lot more emotional and sad than what I expected going into this. So just know that up front. I also listened to it and I just wonder if I feel like I rushed it, and I think I would have enjoyed it more if I read the physical, just because again I could be more consumed and more immersed into the emotions and what was happening throughout instead of rushing through it. So for that reason, just know I gave it 4 stars, but I think that there was potential for it being closer to 5 stars. The next one, I'm not going to cover a whole lot about this because I talked about this during my TBR picks what I read this summer, so go check that out. I think I did one video, go check them out. I talk about it a lot. Oh no, it was the freak out video, so go check that out if you haven't already. I read The Stolen Life of Colette Marceau by Kristen Harmel. She is definitely an auto-buy author for me now. I have enjoyed everything I've read by her. I've read her last 3. I haven't gone back into the backlist like The Winemaker's Wife or whatever that one's called, but I have enjoyed her books. They have been all 4 or 5 stars for me, this being 5 stars. So again, not going to go into specifics, but I will say she always tends to write about World War II and the community and the civilians that lived through that war, just different points of view. And so with this one, it was based on a family that had generations of women that were said to be descendants of Robin Hood. And they basically, their beliefs were that they stole from the rich and gave to either the poor or to those that were in need. So like in this instance with World War II, they stole from Hitler supporters, and it was typically in the form of jewels or watches, jewelry of some kind, and then they would pawn them and give those funds towards more of a worthy cause. So, but there's way more to this book. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to be thinking about it for a while. The next one I read, so we go from like probably my favorite book of the month to my least favorite and biggest disappointment, and that was Lisa Jewell's new book called Don't Let Him In. I was very grateful to receive an e-arc from the publisher. Thank you, publisher. Lisa Jewell tends to be a pretty steady 3-4 star for me, but this one, it had some flaws for me. So it's basically you're following multiple women that, similar to Ex-Girlfriend's Murder Club, where they kind of get the sense that their husband, boyfriend, whatever he is to them, is cheating on them. And so you've got all their different stories, which I did enjoy getting to know each of them individually, and kind of how they interacted with and how this man, what role he played in their life, if it be husband, if it be boyfriend, whatever the case may be. But it just, there were a lot of spots that didn't connect for me. There was actually a spot, and I should have written it down, but I went back and I read it again, and it seemed like the timing was off. So again, maybe that's just me. Maybe I screwed something up while I was reading, but the timeline, I questioned a piece in it. So if you want to chat about this, let me know, and we can kind of discuss and see if you got the same impression like I did, but I certainly don't want to spoil this for anyone that may decide to pick it up. I will probably still pick up Lisa Jewell books. This was just, again, one that kind of fell flat for me. It didn't quite execute in the way that I had expected Lisa Jewell to do as she had previously. So this one I gave 2.5 stars. And then another one that I read, this was one of the books that I picked from my TBR jar for summer. So 1 down, 3 to go. I think I picked 3 more. And that was Junie by Erin Crosby Eckstein. I enjoyed this one. This was a historical fiction, and it was kind of that whole concept of a slave, and then like the head of the household's daughter were both friends. They were really good friends, and kind of seeing that aspect of having different levels within the household, and how the daughter didn't quite understand why her friend, who was the slave, couldn't do certain things. And so I'm usually, I tend to read a lot of historical fiction, and I really like the own voices right now, just getting different perspectives from times in history. But this one, I think this is the only thing I can figure out. I did not hate this book at all by any means, but I feel like I have had so many knock it out of the park historical fictions this year, 5-star reads, that I feel like the bar has been set so high that I felt like it wasn't as good of a read, but it was. So for me, I gave this 3.5 stars, but it could easily be in somebody's top 10 this year. It's just, I've gotten to the point already in June that there are so many good reads that I don't know. I had to stack it up against those. Just to name a few, I really enjoyed, obviously I just talked about Stolen Life of Colette Marceau. I really enjoyed Dolan Perkins Valdez Happy Land that came out this year. Also Alan Eskin's The Quiet Librarian, that was really good, and again that had more historical fiction in it than his others, which have previously been just suspense and thriller. So it was really hard to stack this up against it, and that's why I gave it a little bit lower rating. But please check it out. I will say there's also this kind of subtle paranormal element. The Junie, the main character, she had a sister that had passed away, so just kind of more so getting visions and messages from her, but not as I just wasn't expecting that, but just know that it's not over the top. It definitely adds to the story. And then last but not least, this was a last minute pickup too. I requested and received an e-arc of The Satisfaction Cafe by Kathy Wang. I had a friend that was raving about this on Bookstagram, and so on a whim I went out and I requested an arc, and I received it, and I was pleasantly surprised. I have not read anything by Kathy Wang, and this one was about a woman. They follow her journey from moving from Taiwan to California, where she went to college, and so we start out where she's young, in her early 20s, and just kind of, I would say, the struggles with, being from a foreign place, but also a different culture, but also being a young woman, and all of these different things that she has stacked against her, and just how it affects her with what she's doing for her job, with how she's trying to, find the love of her life, even though that looks a little bit different in different cultures, and what the expectation is there versus what she can change and what she can control in her life. Struggles with family members that don't want to stay in touch with her, or that they have an expectation set forth for her, and just kind of what that looks like. And then it goes all the way through her life, building her own family, her own residence, and just, it really is a character-driven novel with getting to know everybody that comes across her path. I have to say, if you asked me what I do and don't like to read and different plots and different things like that, I would say that I do not like slow build up character driven novels. But this is what this was, and it worked for me. And I have no idea why. I can't pinpoint it, but I really enjoyed it. And again, this is another one with found families, so obviously that's going to get me every time. And even from the standpoint of, I know sometimes people will say, oh, I related to this character and that's what drew me in. Well, this individual, her and I were very different just with our upbringings. She ends up, I don't feel like this is a spoiler, but she ends up in a higher social status. She has a lot of money, and I am average. I am not living in a mansion. And so I didn't relate from that sense either. So I don't know why, but I was engaged with this book from start to finish. I was constantly just picking it up and reading it every chance I had, and I really enjoyed it. My only thing was there was something at the end that kind of explains the title of the book, and again, that's Satisfaction Cafe. I just wanted more of that. It hadn't been introduced until, I want to say like 80 or 85% into the book, and I would have liked a lot more of that, a lot more of the stories within those walls. Even like halfway through introducing it. That's the only reason that I didn't give this 5 stars. So I gave it 4.5 stars. So certainly go check that out. And I do know that she has a backlist, so I might pick up some of her other books too. All right, that is enough of me talking. Thank you for listening. If you've read any of these or plan to, feel free to drop a comment. Let me know what you thought. If you disagree with me, that is absolutely okay. And that is normal. That is why we read books, so that we can have our own thoughts and opinions, and it makes for great discussion. So let me know. Otherwise, I am jumping into July, and we will see what that brings. Thank you so much. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content.